Good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining. Welcome, Corbin, Jamie, Sylvia, Jay, Trading Desk, Mike, Keisha, A, Hunter, Vicky, Justin. Thank you guys so much for joining this morning. The market is rebounding slightly. Peloton stock is exploding. If you guys want us to cover any specific stocks, let us know in the live chat as always. But as we can see on the chart right now, the SPY is slightly rebounding, but nothing too crazy this morning.
Yeah, it's not too crazy of a rebound yet, but it is good news to see it up, especially like with the futures kind of just getting flat, especially with the way that we saw them going down last night heading into Monday. So definitely a good thing to see it kind of holding its ground this morning. And I do like how we're sitting above 425 still. I think that that'll end up being a pretty good support for today.
For sure. And one thing I want to point out, Tom, is let's say we go to the daily chart of the SPY. Last year, when like COVID really was hitting the markets really hard back in February and March of 2020, if we look at that daily chart, it's not that we were just red every single day. There were actually a lot of green candles sprinkled in the mix. So just keep that in mind. Like, there will be green days. Like, even if the market does continue down, there can be a lot of green days along the way, just like we saw back last year in March.
Yeah, for sure. And that's just a big way that the market goes. Like you'll see a lot of people selling off, of course, and then obviously people end up buying the dip. And that's just the way the market kind of ebbs and flows. Maybe the shorts are covering at the same time. And it's just, it could obviously make the stock fly back up and cause those little green days. But right now, the SPY is actually just kind of still sitting flat so far today. Looks like the big move so far is just Peloton. The rest of the market seems pretty much unchanged. Let's see how Apple's doing. It looks like they're actually having a pretty good open so far.
Yeah, not bad at all. So looking at Peloton, they're up around 5% this morning, and they're running on news how United Healthcare is going to provide millions of members with year-long access to the Peloton app. And I know that like Peloton and United are working together, so it's just a good sign for the stock.
Like United Airlines, right?
No, United Healthcare.
Oh, United Healthcare. Okay, I was gonna say that I was gonna say that didn't sound right, but
Yeah.
okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense then. And oh yeah, Peloton is doing very well today, and they actually had a good day yesterday too. So hopefully they can keep up this momentum. And man, they had so much movement today in pre-market; it was pretty parabolic. That news must have been pretty good for them, but man, it's just like overall, like the rest of the market, like the SPY is just going flat. Apple's still flat. Microsoft. Let's see how they're doing so far today. It looks like Microsoft is actually going red very, very slightly. Nvidia is actually turning red, but Nvidia had that split last night and they're all the way down to 184 right now. I knew that they'd open up somewhere around like 185, but wow, it's crazy to see them, going down after the split, of course. And, we saw Apple and we saw Tesla go down after the split. And I wonder how much further Nvidia might fall today on this news.
And then we have Hunter saying mRNA is ripping again. Tom, this one is just exploding. It's a powerhouse. It's up around 3% today in the market. Basically just opened, especially on a daily chart. Look at this thing.
Yeah, I cannot believe mRNA Moderna is still doing it. I thought that they would eventually stop. Maybe they'll stop somewhere around $350, but they are getting very parabolic, just really honestly so overextended. Mike, it's going to have to be good for some credit spreads pretty soon because, wow, I mean, it's getting really far up there. I'm wondering like how far that they can actually go. And man, that this new Delta variant and all this news like with the new COVID cases and stuff, obviously that's going to be helping Moderna, especially in the short term. And man, it's really rocketing up.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then we have, let's see. We have Mike saying, good morning, everyone. Hopefully today will be better than yesterday. Hopefully. And then we have Keisha saying, good morning. Miss you guys. Looks like we had a nice correction while I was gone. Yeah, the market's been really crazy. And someone brought up yesterday in the comments of the video how right when Tom left, the market was at all-time highs. And he left for a couple days and the market went crazy.
Yeah, that's pretty funny, actually. It's almost like that timing was almost too good there. But man, yeah, it's nuts. The market started dying as soon as I left. And Man, it's almost like I when I was at Disney World and I was looking at, like Disney stock and everything, and I was like, man, what's going on with this? And I was like, am I not spending enough money here? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
But it's definitely going down. It's not looking good. And yeah, the overall market just got so volatile. Everyone's worried about the new Delta cases. They obviously there's China news kind of in the mix too. So, but I think the main thing is the market's really I think that the traders are really preparing for more of this, possibly like more restrictions, obviously more COVID cases and stuff with the Delta variant. And it's just, I think, kind of getting priced in right now.
All right. And we have Alex saying, good morning. Please let us have One Direction smooth trading day. Hopefully, please, either up or down. Make it easy today. Looks like that's not what we're seeing, at least right now, but the market literally opened like 4 minutes ago. So, hopefully we get a nice either pop up or at least just like a nice, solid, smooth trend in one direction.
Yeah, and it looks like the SPY is at least holding that 425 support. So hopefully we can get a good bounce to the upside off of this. I would say if the SPY can pop above like 427.50, I think you could see a pretty safe move up.
All right. And then let's see what I have moving. Looks like Nvidia is down 2%. Zoom is down about 1.5%. Redfin's up slightly. The airlines are recovering a little bit today, Tom. I don't know if you saw that, but these things really struggled over the past couple weeks.
No, I haven't seen that yet today, but that is good to see. Yeah, they had a nice little pre-market pop and they're actually holding that like closing level of yesterday, which is awesome. Looks like $19 is a pretty big level for AAL here, but I'm really glad to see that with the airlines. And I know that it's going to be a good opportunity to grab some leaps pretty soon. Obviously nobody can call the bottom, but I'm really eyeing it up for leaps for shares and just obviously like longer term positions right now. I think that that's obviously the best way to go. Unfortunately, I feel like that we might break these supports and end up keep going down, but we'll just have to see how the movement ends up playing out.
How
And
about
there is earnings coming up, keep in mind, just in 2 days on AAL itself.
Gotcha. How about Pfizer? This thing's breaking out right now. Looks like it's breaking above the $40.70 resistance, and it has a good amount of momentum.
Man, these vaccine stocks are on fire. The 1 minute chart on Pfizer is insane. They just went straight up today since open. This is actually a pretty big move for them, actually. And man, that daily looks awesome for them as well. Man, I would just say, yeah, it looks like they're getting right up to these resistance levels. I would say if they could break out above like $41, we could see like a pretty good pop again out of them, even intraday. Like it looks like they're really running up. Definitely have your eyes on them. I'm going to look up some news on Pfizer. It's probably just obviously the vaccine stuff and the stuff going on right now. It says SpringWorks receives U.S. composition of matter patent. It's a polymorphic form of a weird drug. So definitely, I don't think that's the news there, but definitely the Delta variant's really helping these vaccine stocks go up. And man, Pfizer and Moderna are really benefiting from it.
All right, and then Vicky's asking about SKLZ and Roblox. So let's take a look. SKLZ, this one, let's take a look. This one is not looking too bad. It's down slightly today. Nothing crazy though. It is coming close to a huge support at $12.50. It's not a horrible dip buy.
No, it's not terrible at all. And I really like that like $14 level that it bounced off of and ended up going up. And I think it could be a decent play, especially like in the shorter term, possibly for like, maybe the rest of the day today or tomorrow. But so far today, ever since open, they have caught some red. So be a little careful of that, but hopefully they can hold that 1450 area.
Okay, and then Roblox.
Roblox, RBLX. It's actually been like a week or two since I've even seen Roblox. It looks like they've been going down a little bit, which is unfortunate. Today they have more red movement at open. It almost looks like the same setup as SKLZ. They had that nice green candle yesterday, and then today they're just kind of consolidating. I would say this one I'm a little bit more neutral on than SKLZ. I think SKLZ has a little bit more potential in the short term, but it's not that Roblox is going to do bad by any means. It's just not my favorite.
All right, let me take a look real quick. So yeah, it's down a little bit right now. It's not my favorite either. It's kind of like there's no like major support or resistance anytime soon. I guess you can say there's a big support at 75, but nothing like too notable.
Yeah, it's not too good. I would say like on an intraday setup, I'm seeing on the 1 minute chart, maybe like a support right around $78, kind of like where we are right now. And we're also hitting the 1,000 SMA. So hopefully we get a nice turnaround today.
For sure. And then we have Sean saying, "I'm speaking for anyone who has been to Disney. Tom, you spent plenty."
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I definitely spent plenty there. That's for sure. I honestly didn't even expect to spend that much there, but man, it's definitely expensive. And there was honestly so many people there that I cannot believe that Disney stock can ever go down, given what I saw there. So I can't believe that their stock is red. But overall, though, I think that they'll do pretty good for the longer term, especially with Disney Plus going on. Like even without Disney Plus, I would expect them to do decent at least. But now that they have Disney Plus in the works for the past couple of years, it's honestly just making their company really, really solid. And even though they're going down in the short term, like in the next couple of years, Disney will probably be right back up there.
All right. And then we have Corbin saying, "How is Clove, Tom?"
Yeah, CLOV. Let's go check that one out today. Looks like it is going red so far at open, which is not a good sign, but we are still up above $8, which is a decent support that I'm seeing for CLOV. We are going down though intraday, which is not a good sign, but keep in mind that there's a lot of growth stocks that they had a very nice green day yesterday, and now today they're just kind of consolidating down. We've seen it on a few different stocks so far this morning. And I would say just be a little wary. The growth stocks are just kind of consolidating. I'm definitely going to look for it to hold maybe this $8 support though and go back up. But I think that there's a lot of potential for tomorrow. It's just that there was such a parabolic move yesterday that I think that there's some profit taking, or at minimum, there's just a little bit of consolidation going on before we might see another pop up.
To be honest, even if it retested like the support at $7.80, I'd still think it looks good. Keep in mind, CLOV is a pretty volatile stock, so right now it's down around 2.6%, which is a decent amount, but at the same time, the implied volatility is 125%. So there's just a lot of choppy movement in general. Of course, if at any time you don't like the setup, just get out of it. But like for me, I think it still looks good. Like even if we're to retest the support at $7.80.
Yeah, for sure. Me too. And that's going to be the main thing that I'm looking at, especially like for tomorrow. Today, I'm looking at $8, but I'm obviously like, I still might hold it. Obviously, if it cuts that, still going to look at like 780 and possibly even that 767 level, which was the low, would be just because of obviously it might go all the way down to there, unfortunately.
I mean, it's the worst when like you get stopped out of a play, like it's like trending in it's trending in your direction for a second, and then out of nowhere a decent sell-off comes in, stops you out, and then ends up continuing how you originally planned. So either way, it's not looking the best this morning, but it's not looking horrible.
Yep. And then as on the daily, I really like it off that support around $7.60. But I'm actually seeing some other stocks that I've been eyeing up lately going green again. Triple M looks like that they're actually going green. And on the daily, they've actually been consolidating quite a bit on this 100 SMA. Looks like they might pass above the $200 area here soon. So hopefully they can get another decent pop up today. I think that this could be a good play if they pop up above $200. But man, I've been honestly eyeing up Triple M for like a longer term play for quite a while now. I was in them a long time ago, back whenever they were at like $140, maybe like 160, somewhere like right around there. But they're definitely like a slow mover, but for the longer run, I think they're one of the better longer term stocks, and they're definitely one of my favorites.
Sounds good. Let's see. So it looks like right now we have DocuSign moving pretty well to the upside. DOCU is up around 2%, and they're getting pretty close to that resistance at 300.
Yeah, they are. That resistance is actually really, really defined. Really watch out for DocuSign. If they break that and start to move up, I think we might see a pretty parabolic move. And we've been seeing a lot of stocks like Moderna, Peloton, etc., start to get a lot of volatility lately. So, if we see DocuSign start to fly, I think that a lot of traders might start hopping into this one.
For sure. TDOC's running up pretty well. Looks like a lot of the stocks that are related to like healthcare are popping up today. TDOC, Pfizer, mRNA. What is the other one? BMY's looking decent. ABT's trending up. So yeah, that's definitely where the money's at least this morning.
Yeah, and I think that it has to do with that, obviously, with the Delta variant going on again. And man, I think that that's going to be a. Unfortunately, I'm hating to see the market kind of price this variant in. I think that that's exactly what we're seeing right now. People are pricing it in with the healthcare stocks. The overall market's kind of flattened down. They're kind of pricing it in there as well, and it's just obviously just like a bad week for the market overall. But the good news is that there's a lot of like earnings and stuff coming up, so that could possibly obviously like turn the tides around. But I actually just saw news, Mike, that Jeff Bezos reaches space on Blue Origin's first crewed launch, and that's nice to hear though that went nice for Blue Origin. And let's see if Amazon is kind of going green on the news, and Amazon's selling off a little bit, but obviously they're not really connected to Blue Origin.
For sure. Let's see. How's AMC doing?
AMC, let's check it out. Wow, actually catching some green today, up 5%. That's a pretty decent move. It's not the biggest for AMC, but man, it looks like they have a lot of momentum. They held that $35 support at open, and I honestly really like this move up today. Looks like they're going to break that high of day in just a couple minutes. And I think that whenever we move back above this 36.50 level, which we just did, I think we'll see a pretty decent little pop here back to the upside. I wonder how high we'll end up going, but this is a pretty bullish setup right here.
Yeah, I mean, it's trending up pretty well right now. It's back above that 35 resistance, which is great to see. If I go back to my watch list, it looks like BLNK is taking a beating today. But there's just no great momentum, like at all, especially to the upside, at least on my watch list. Nvidia, Neo, and Zoom are down a little bit, but right now it seems like a lot of stocks are kind of stuck in a weird position where we're not seeing like a full like rebound back up, but at the same time we're not seeing them like crash and burn like we saw over the past couple days.
Yeah, and one thing to keep in mind is that there was such a big green day yesterday that a lot of times after you see a big pop like that, you will see like maybe a one or two red days after that every once in a while. Obviously, sometimes there's just a ton of momentum and you just see huge moves to the upside. But I will say though that it is a good thing to see that the stocks are kind of consolidating today. It's not the worst sign in the world, and I'm glad to see that they're holding a lot of their levels though. Like they're not just selling straight off back down to these lows, like Neo, for example, back down to 40.50. They're actually like holding a lot of their supports and actually like having a lot of like choppy movement now that they kind of fell just a little bit.
Gotcha. How about Target, Tom? This thing's been a powerhouse. It's been going straight up for the past couple months, and yesterday it looked like it was going to finally pull back once and for all, but it's right back up there.
Man, it had that end of day resurgence. I don't know what ended up going on with them, but they just continue to fly, Mike. I don't know if it's because the last time that COVID got bad, all the stores ended up selling out of their goods, and Target obviously would do well from that. But it's a very weird scenario with Target. I still think that they're going to end up going down pretty significantly in the next month or two. The question is though, how much consolidation are we going to see? Because this is just starting to get nuts with Target. They were breaking all-time high after all-time high for just month after month after month. And it was just, it wasn't like any huge moves either. It was just very slow and steady stair steps to the upside. And we might continue to see that. It looks like that we're having some more green movement today. And I would say if the overall market keeps recovering up, we might see Target come up and retest like 253 or this really high resistance around 254.
Gotcha. Another stock I'm watching is AT&T. Over like the next week or so, this thing has been just doing horrible over the past couple months, and they have earnings pretty soon. So let's remember that they are a pretty good dividend stock. Their stock performance hasn't been the best over the past couple years, but if you can snag this one pretty low, it's not one, it's at a pretty good level, and then two, it pays some pretty solid dividends. So I'm just really watching AT&T, especially if we see a fall. I'm thinking about getting some shares for the long term.
Yeah, I think that's actually a good play. I love AT&T, and I used to have shares on them from the last time they were at to like $28. So I might hop back in as well. I really like them, or at least I might sell some puts at the minimum. But I think it looks like a really solid play. Hopefully those earnings can go well. And one thing to keep in mind is that AT&T loves to fall on their dividend news. So whenever they report dividends, historically, they generally, have a little bit of downwards movement. Even if they're going to end up going up, they go down for a few days after those dividends. And we honestly just reported those dividends a little bit ago. So hopefully we can get a turnaround with these earnings. And we're almost right down to that support. There's a huge support on AT&T at $26 and $27. So I really like it at these prices.
All right. I know that they like cut their dividends, so I know that's gonna kind of suck, but it's still a pretty decent play in general. So it's just on my radar. I didn't make any moves yet, but if it like sells off with earnings, I might sell some puts pretty low, and it could be like a triple win. Like I sell the puts, get paid that way. If I get assigned shares of the stock, then it's a good hold, and I'll get paid dividends, and on top of that I can sell covered calls. So it could just be like a nice like triple play, but it's just on my radar, and it's definitely on my watch list. Looks like Apple's popping back up.
Yeah, let's go check it out. AAPL, see how it's popping. Hopefully it can go back up towards those highs again, because it was not looking good. And wow, yeah, I actually really like this intraday setup. Broke that high of like 144 from earlier. Looks really good actually. I love how it moved off the 1,000 SMA down there at that 143 support. Looked really solid, and I'm glad to see it moving. I think this will be a pretty good day trade for anyone who's trading it right now. Whoever caught it on that breakout's definitely pretty happy at the moment.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, looking at the SPY in general right now, it is breaking out, which is good to see. Looking at the QQQ, it's not as strong, which is interesting. Just one thing to really keep in mind, guys, is looking back at past crashes or corrections. There are like a good amount of green days sprinkled in. So the main reason I even bring this up, whether you're bullish or bearish on the market right now, is understand that there's going to be a lot of choppy, volatile movement. There's going to be a lot of both green and red days, even if the market tanks. So please keep that in mind. I feel like some people just feel like, when the market crashes, even though back in 2020 with February and March, even though that was one of the quickest and most significant crashes in the market's history, there was actually a lot of green days sprinkled in.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because, on the way down, there's always people like obviously taking profits on short positions. There's always people, rebuying dips and stuff like that as well. And I just, of course, you're never just going to see like 50 like red days in a row unless it's like, the Great Depression or something like really, really crazy that happened. But you're definitely going to always see that. So like Mike said, just keep that in mind. And like, for example, like we're seeing with the Dow today, it's actually going green, but you can see on the daily, there's still that really high resistance up here around 350 or right around 35,000 on the Dow itself. But, that you can just like look on the daily and kind of see here, like on, especially like what Mike was talking about back whenever COVID was going on, like a year and a half ago, you can see how many like green days there was. And like, I'll zoom in and get really, really close for you guys, just so you can see like the big pops back up, because at some points people were even thinking that the market could even like, start to go back up whenever we were at like February 28th, February 29th, those were two pretty good, like pretty good green days. People probably were like buying the dip like crazy right there. And then it just continued to sell off. So like Mike said, there's always that chance that green is going to be sprinkled in.
For sure. All right, draft is down a little bit. Penn is down a little bit. Penn's making higher lows, at least as of right now, compared to yesterday. Penn, Penn. It's not looking bad. It's definitely on my radar for like a longer term play. I'm going to be watching this one for like leaps or even shares over the next couple weeks. I feel like in certain ways, it's similar to the Zoom setup that I played in the middle of May.
Yeah, it does actually remind me of that. And they're moving right down to those supports. So I think that we're getting closer and closer to a very good level here. And I think $60 is going to be the big level to look out for here.
And then look at Riot and Mara, Tom. These things are getting destroyed. I know Bitcoin's been falling a lot lately.
Man, it is. I heard it fell below that 30,000 support. Not a good sign for Bitcoin. Mara and Riot are obviously still above their support, though. I have a huge support on Riot right around $20. And it looks like they are still above that, which is a good sign in the short term. But man, if Bitcoin and stuff keeps falling, definitely not good. I know China's been really cracking down on like Bitcoin mining and just Bitcoin overall, as well as some other countries even. So definitely keep your eye out. And if we keep seeing bad news with Bitcoin, it's just not going to be good in the short term. But a lot of people would maybe think that if Bitcoin's falling, people might get out of that and then get into the overall market. But now the overall market's trying to sell off too. So hopefully people might, hopefully they like get back into Bitcoin or they start getting into gold, or hopefully we can start to find one of those good sectors that are going to kind of go up while the overall market's starting to go down here.
I would love for there to be a Bitcoin ETF. I know that there's a lot of like fund managers like trying to get it passed, but yeah, I would love if there was a Bitcoin ETF. I would love to, sell some puts on that like every week.
Yeah, me too. And I think Kathy was even trying to make one. So if there's like an ARC Bitcoin one, that would be really cool. But man, there's definitely a lot of like talk about that Bitcoin ETF, Mike. And you're right. That'll be a really cool thing to have. And I think that if we had that, I think that that would obviously, bring a lot more exposure for retail traders to trade Bitcoin and stuff. But I think that that'll really help Bitcoin itself because that fund will obviously be buying up tons of Bitcoin futures, tons of obviously like Bitcoin itself possibly. Who knows how the fund is going to be set up exactly yet, but man, it's definitely going to be very interesting whenever that does happen. And I would maybe expect that to be the next turnaround for Bitcoin once something like that gets passed. That's actually a really good point.
Yeah, for sure. Then we have Hunter saying Thinkorswim did not correct Nvidia's chart. I thought their headquarters collapsed overnight. Forgot about the split. Yeah, when you look at that like intraday chart, it looks like it fell off a cliff.
Yeah, it does, especially like on like a 15-minute chart or something. Yeah, it looks like they just got destroyed. Like obviously they'd be like one fourth of their value from before. So no, definitely a crazy thing to see. But yeah, they did not correct the chart, which is a little bit weird. I kind of would have expected to see that. Maybe they will like over the next week or two. But for right now, it's definitely looking crazy. It's at 184. It's just kind of flat today, only down like 1%. I don't know. I don't know what to think about Nvidia right now, Mike. It's kind of just I'm going to be more neutral on it. It kind of was already pricing in kind of like the split, I think, with the way it was falling the past couple of days. And right now it's just, sitting just flat down 2%. And I would maybe expect a little bit more of a sell-off.
All right, we have Spacely saying, let's get these likes up, guys. Let's go. Likes really help us out. Thank you guys so much for joining. We have David saying, good morning, everyone. Keisha saying, NVAX has been on the move. How's it looking?
Honestly, really good. The daily looks awesome on NVAX. They have earnings coming up on August 5th, so you still have a little bit of time there. And I would honestly almost expect this one to come up and retest the 250 resistance. I'm seeing another resistance right around $230, kind of like where we're sitting right today. Looks like we actually just bounced off of 230 and we're heading back to the downside now. So be a little careful with that. But I will say the momentum was definitely there at open, even though we're going down now. If we break 230 later on, I think we could see another pop.
All right. And then we have Matthew saying, gold, any fundamental analysis? I mean, no fundamental analysis, but Tom, how do their technicals look?
Yeah, GLD actually looks pretty decent to the upside here. It's hitting the 1,000 SMA. Looks like GLD is going up very slightly. The overall market is obviously kind of going up today as well. So it's kind of following the market, which is a little strange, obviously, for gold. For GOLD itself, Barrick Gold, it's up today as well. I think that this one's going to be following gold here in the short term, but there's a huge support on this one at $20.30. So that's actually a pretty big support. If we break that, I'd be pretty bearish on it, at least in the shorter term. But I'm honestly going to be looking for a continued bounce to the upside here, especially how they said inflation is going to continue for a few months and stuff. I don't think that the gold sector is going to fly up and explode or anything like that. But I think the GLD might come up and maybe retest $180 or something like that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think there's definitely potential for it to pop. Yeah, for sure. Then we have Corbin saying gold is doing good. I wish I got a better entry. Gerard saying, is 210 a good support on Boeing? So Tom, what do you think? 210 on Boeing.
I don't like 210 as much as I like 200 itself, but I will say that it is a little bit of a decent support here. It's definitely hit off of it a little bit today. I would almost say it's more of a resistance right now. It looks like we're having a lot of problems getting back above that. It's not like the biggest on the daily chart, but as far as like intraday movement over the past few days, it's been definitely moving here. So I would say if we get a good bounce up above here, yeah, I would go ahead and be bullish on it. And it looks like we might hit this and start to see some consolidation today. So looks I honestly like the setup on Boeing though. It looks like it is bouncing well. I like how it got really close to that 200 support a couple days ago, and I'm definitely going to be looking at it back to the upside soon. Kind of like with all these other airline stocks, it looks like that they've just been kind of following that whole sector.
Sounds good. And we have Hands saying hold RELM and MDMP. All right, so these are very sub penny stocks. These are, I mean, I guess MDMP is like 12 cents or so, but not too much volume. We don't really trade these types of stocks. Hopefully they pop for you though. Then we have JW saying, good morning, Mike and Tom. Can we take a look at NVIDIA? NVIDIA, so I know it was selling off a little bit. It's coming back up. What do you think, Tom?
Yeah, coming up a little bit. I'm honestly just going to be very neutral on this right now. It really to me looks like it might continue to the downside. Hopefully that it having the split will drive more buyers in with the price being so much lower that obviously more people can afford it and stuff. So hopefully it can go up off of this. But personally, I think that we might see a little bit more downwards movement, kind of like we saw after Tesla and Apple split. But the reason I'm more neutral on it is because of how it had this drop over the past week or two. And that's going to be because obviously I think people were kind of pricing in that Tesla and Apple drop. Like people were shorting it kind of in anticipation of something like this happening. And I think that it could obviously still go down, but I'm just going to be neutral on it because it's already priced in. And like obviously there was a big support at like $700 on Nvidia, and we were almost right around there. So honestly, just going to be more neutral. Just maybe like we're bouncing off that 700 support. I know it doesn't show up right now as having a support down here at the bottom, but keep in mind this is a split adjusted level, and I would think that 700 support would hold up, and I would say that'd be somewhere right around like 175 on the chart right now.
All right, and then we have Jorge saying MMAT with a 43.79% short float right now. The second highest shorted stock. MMAT. Wow, so this can definitely be potential. This definitely has potential for a short squeeze. It's down a little bit right now, but you know, if that's the case on its short float, really, it'll really just pop off of, you know, hype and momentum. So hopefully it pops up for you, and I'm glad you brought it up because that's a crazy high short float.
Yeah, it is, and it really popped up in the past too before it had that split, and that's pretty crazy to see that they even had a split. So really crazy with MMAT actually, and hopefully they can continue to go up like you said, Mike. I like the way the chart was looking back a few months ago, of course, but right now if we start to see another move kind of like we saw back then, it might cause a lot of those shorts to get out, and that would obviously be a really good scenario.
All right. And then we have Vicky saying PI and Teledoc for day trading. Let's take a look. So PI and then Teledoc. PI, it's not bad. It's bouncing off this $40 support. So yeah, not bad at all for maybe a dip buy.
Yeah, I don't think so. It looks like a pretty decent $40 support right there. The stock doesn't have the most volume on it in the world, but I will say it does have decent movement, which is good.
Well, one problem is I just looked at their options chain, and one, the closest expiration is August 20th, and then two, there is basically no volume on this. There's only been 20 contracts traded on all of the different strike prices for the August 20th chain. So if you plan on playing options, you can't really for day trading on this one because there's not enough liquidity. But how is TDOC looking?
TDOC, I know that you could definitely day trade TDOC, and looking at them on the 1 minute, I will say they are pulling back right now, kind of off that like 156 support area. So I'd be a little careful playing them as of right now. But if we end up coming down and maybe retesting like the 152 support and then bouncing off of there or something similar, I think that it could be a pretty good day trade for today. And I think TDOC has pretty good options.
All right. And we also have Vicky saying Target is running. Yes, Target is definitely running. Not the direction I'd like to see. As of right now, it still is making lower highs. It has a decent amount of momentum so far this morning, which is a little worrying. It's still below resistance, so I'm not really too worried about it. Also, for the put debit spreads I have, one, they're put debit spread, so it gives you wiggle room with time decay and stuff like that. But also, two, they expire in October, so I'm not too worried about that. But yeah, it sucks to see it going green today.
Yeah, and that's good that you have a lot of time on those because it's actually gonna, like you said, help a lot, especially with that time decay or theta decay. And definitely look for it. There's a big resistance on target, a huge one at like 254 and then 255. So if we could easily hit like 254 and start to move back down.
All right. And then we have Click saying thoughts on CFMS. ARK bought this penny stock. CFMS. I actually have not seen the ARK news with it, but if that's true, I mean, that's awesome to see. I mean, they're looking pretty decent. They're up almost 4%.
Yeah, that's actually really good news. If ARK did buy into that, I'll definitely be looking into this for sure because this is a really cheap penny stock right now. And if ARK knows something, I might even grab a little bit of this one because ARK they generally are pretty good with their picks and stuff. So definitely gonna be eyeing this one up, and I'll do a little bit more research on it.
All right, and then we have Raphael saying Disney might be a good long-term pickup here. I love Disney, and I think that they're at a pretty solid level. I like them for like the long term, and they do have earnings in a couple weeks or so.
Yeah, and I think they're going to be solid for the long term as well. Even if they end up going down and they retest like the 160 support or like the 150, I'm still not even worried about them for the long term. I think within like the next like 6 months to a year, we'll see more upwards movement. And like even if like COVID or something starts to get rampant and they have to shut down their parks and stuff, keep in mind that's going to drive millions and millions of more people onto their Disney Plus service. So that'll be a good double. It's almost like a double-edged sword. They'll lose people for their parks, but they'll gain more subscribers for Disney Plus. So it's kind of like a not like a win-loss scenario, I should say, but at least they'll be like kind of like even in that scenario.
Yeah, there's like a lot of companies that aren't that don't have that type of like advantage, you can say. Like if you look at a company like Peloton, generally when the lockdowns are strict or when COVID's really bad, Peloton is an awesome stock to go for because more people are using their services and they're not necessarily going out and like working out at like physical gyms, like public gyms. But Disney, like you said, Tom, is in a very unique scenario because like it's kind of a reopening play where they once they like reopen like how they reopen their parks and all that, but at the same time they also have that Disney Plus and ESPN and all that to kind of help them either way.
Yeah, for sure. And I didn't even bring up ESPN. That's another one that's pretty big as well. And yeah, they just have so much stuff going for them that fundamentally in the longer term they should be doing pretty well.
Yep. All right. And then we have, let's see, Jay saying, any thoughts on Netflix earnings tonight? Earnings are always impossible to predict. What sucks about earnings is you can predict the direction correctly, like with their EPS and their sales and all that, and you can still lose money. So for those reasons, I don't really play earnings. They're just a total coin flip, in my opinion. Generally, earnings increase over time, and so does the stock price. So I mean, it's not. I don't know. Like it's not for me. I just feel like it's such a gamble.
Yeah, and there's a huge like resistance at like 550 to 555 that we've been hitting off of lately too. And I would say if we have great earnings, who knows, we might like pop up through here or something like that. But just given that we've been hitting these levels and starting to go down, I'd be pretty careful with earnings. It's and the implied volatility is starting to pick up into this as well. So it's just going to make it even harder and harder to win.
Yep. And then we have Jorge saying it was a reverse split on MMAT, Tom. They were TRCH before. Then we have Keisha saying CPB on the move. How's it looking? CPB.
CPB.
Yep, CPB.
Okay, Campbell's Soup. It actually is looking pretty good today. It's having a pretty decent little bounce off that support. They had a huge support at $44 on the chart. It's not going to be the biggest mover in the world. I would say it's a good long-term play though. And if anything does end up going on, like with the Delta variant or more restrictions, Campbell's Soup should do pretty decent during that time. Not that they're gonna like fly up or anything like that, but you can see like the last time during COVID, they did fall down to like $42, but they just ended up staying between like 50 and 42 for like the past few years. So it's honestly like a better like dividend stock and more of like a safer stock to hold for the long term. You can get a good swing out of it if you catch it at the right time. But I would say like with everything going on, I like it. It's pretty decent.
Good stuff. All right, and then let's see. So that's the questions right now. It looks like mRNA is inching towards its high a day, or I should say its all-time high again.
Yeah, it is. On the 1 minute, we actually just hit it just a second ago, and then we ended up coming right back down. So hopefully we can see a good break. We broke out above 335. 335 just now, and I'd really like to see more movement here on the 1 minute. Hopefully we don't see another move back down, but man, that implied volatility is starting to get really high on Moderna, and man, I'm wondering how high this can go. I'm maybe targeting like $350, but who knows? This is getting very, very, very overextended, I should say. And man, I don't know like how much higher we're going to end up going, but I think I'm going to be eyeing this one up possibly to the downside soon. And maybe not today, but I'm definitely going to be looking at it like over the next week or two and just eyeing it up, because once it starts to go down, I think we'll see a pretty big pullback. But if stuff keeps going on with the variant, who knows? This could just keep running and running.
All right, we have Adrian saying Nvidia forming a bullish pattern ? So it's hard to look at this one, Tom, with the with the split that happened.
It is. And then I have the moving averages on there too. So it makes it like a lot harder. And man, it's hard to see it. But I would say, just be very neutral on this one for now. It could obviously go up. And I think if you start to see a big breakout, like up above like 185 or, somewhere close to that, I think you could see a good move. But for right now, I would just be really, really neutral on it and be really careful. That implied volatility, it was starting to get pretty crazy heading into this event and everything. So, just keep in mind that the split is obviously going to make the stock move pretty insanely, I think, one way or the other. I don't see it really going flat. I think it will eventually pick a solid direction here, but if it ends up going up and breaking out pretty good, I would say then go ahead and just ride that momentum for a quick day trade or something. Personally, I wouldn't swing this right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at it intraday. It's still down like a decent amount. It's not crashing, but I wouldn't call it like a full bullish pattern. I don't know. I just feel like there's better setups in the market right now. Looks like Zoom is selling off a little bit. BLNK, Baidu. Airlines are rallying, or trying to rally, I should say. Boeing's trending up. So yeah, I mean that's the main little summary for today.
Banks are actually doing pretty decent today.
Banks, let's see.
Yeah, Bank of America's up 1.4%. We got JP Morgan actually pulling up above. Yeah, up above. They're actually at their daily high right now. Not all-time high, but the high of the past couple days, and looking pretty good actually. They're actually moving pretty well. If JP Morgan breaks 149 where we are right now, we might see a pretty decent pop up of this 150 resistance.
Yeah, I mean, it's looking pretty good. The momentum's definitely there. On the daily, I know they're not looking the best, but they're not looking too bad either. JP Morgan's a solid stock for the long term, solid company, and they are retesting this support like right at 145 or so.
Yeah, and I wonder if the banks going up are part of the reason why the Dow's green today, because the Dow's honestly, it's going green, looking pretty decent. But then we have the QQQ. Well, it was red earlier, but it's just up 0.05%, just break even right now. And then the SPY is up 0.7%. So it's weird to see like the Dow actually like leading the way right now. And I guess that's just because a lot of tech stocks and stuff are pulling back. And it looks like, on my watch list, we have Triple M, Caterpillar, Wells Fargo, all green. So it seems like those like value stocks, even AT&T's green. So those like safer value stocks are just doing a little better today.
How's IBM looking?
IBM, I actually have not looked at them in forever, Mike. Wow, they're popping up. They had good earnings actually. It looks like that's a great thing to see for IBM. I have actually, like I said, not looked into them in forever. But man, I'm glad to see them moving back up. And I've heard some analysts talk about them, like Kramer and a few others, say that it could be pretty good for the longer run. And honestly, on the daily, looks like they got beat down for a few years, but I really like the way it's starting to trend back to the upside now. It looks like they might start to be having like a couple year resurgence maybe for the next couple of years.
Yeah, it's not looking bad. Let's see. I'm just looking at mRNA. I just can't believe how it's rallying. And some of these options on them are like even if you go super far out of the money, they're expensive. Like if you go to the weekly calls, obviously July 23rd, the basically the 430 strike call, which is as far out of the money as you can get, which is $100 out of the money, still costs like $75, which is crazy.
Yeah, that's really crazy, Mike. And like you said, that's so far out of the money. Like you could almost short that and almost be guaranteed, to win on that play.
Yeah, crazy stuff. So yeah, CSCO looks like it's popping up too. CSCO, yeah, it's holding its ground. It's slowly rallying. It looks like a lot of the stocks that are more like slow movers, you can say, are having a good day. You could say like BMY. A lot of the value plays, you say the banks even, airlines are recovering. Walgreens is recovering. Cisco, McDonald's was doing well. So interesting day so far. Spies almost up 1%. It's getting close to that high a day, and it has some pretty good momentum.
Yeah, it does. And I'm honestly really glad you brought up Walgreens, and even like CVS came into my mind whenever you said that. With this new Delta variant coming out, and if something starts to get bad again, I could see CVS moving pretty well. This is actually bouncing right off the 100 SMA. Looks pretty decent here. Same move with Walgreens though. Walgreens looks very decent as well. And with this new variant, I think that these would be two stocks that would kind of move well off of this news. They sell all that stuff, and whenever people get sick, they generally go to like Walgreens, CVS, and places like that. So I think those two could be pretty good stocks here, especially like I said with this new variant or like whatever's going on.
For sure. Then we have Keisha saying, "Are you guys going to invest in Hood?" I'm not. I'm not a fan of Robinhood.
Yeah, I'm not either. I'm not a big fan of them. I don't think that they're going to do bad though. I think that they might fall on IPO. Of course, people are going to be bringing out the memes of like Robinhood not working whenever volatility starts going on and etc. So I think that it's definitely going to have a weird IPO, and I'm not going to be buying it personally. And like Mike said, it's not our favorite, and the platform itself, it's good for like brand new investors, but in the end it doesn't show a lot of data on the charts. It doesn't it freezes up all the time. If there's a big market sell-off, it really freezes up bad. Sometimes it takes like 5 to 10 minutes for orders to go through, and you're sitting there trying to trade options that move so quickly that by the time the orders get in, you can't even get filled. And it has a bunch of issues with it. But I will say, I think it's not going to do bad as a company. I think for the longer run, it'll do good. But I think initially off IPO, it might be a pretty weird stock. It might be kind of like Coinbase or something like that, how it might IPO and just tank down or something really weird.
I mean, at the end of the day, they make a lot of money, and for certain people, it gets the job done. It's just, I'm not a fan of Robinhood. Like you said, Tom, there's a lot of problems with it, but they do make money. And their business model's not bad. Like, I know that, selling order flow is a very controversial topic. It brings in a lot of money for these brokerages, though, and basically all of them do it. But I know Robinhood has a lot of other problems. So I'll definitely watch the IPO. Maybe if it like tanks down or if something crazy happens, maybe I'd sell puts on it. But I'm definitely not one that's gonna be buying in the IPO.
Yeah, and we were actually talking about this in yesterday's YouTube video, and Robinhood came out and they're kind of expecting a slowdown in trading over the next like year to 2 years. We've been at all-time highs lately with GameStop, AMC, and all these like meme stocks going on. there's been more trading going on than ever before in market history, especially with Robinhood itself. So that's good news for Robinhood and good news for the overall market for just about every other brokerage. But if they're expecting a big slowdown, obviously Robinhood's going to like lose a lot of profits in the shorter term. It said that a lot of their revenue comes from options trading and from crypto trading, and they said both of those are starting to go down. And they said specifically though, crypto trading is starting to really fall off the table as far as volume goes in there. So definitely weird to hear that. And just keep in mind that if their revenue starts going down, that'll like even hurt their IPO even more.
Indeed. All right, and then we have Corbin saying, "Come on, Apple, go down." Yeah, the market's rallying a little bit right now, which obviously wouldn't help Apple fall. The SPY is kind of really ripping up. Apple is kind of moving, kind of right with it.
Yeah, it is. It's actually kind of like you said, moving back to the upside here. Um, it has a pretty good resistance up here, though, at 145 on Apple. We might be able to hit that and then start to fall down intraday. But man, it looks really good. It held that 143 support early on this morning, and Apple's just been a powerhouse today. And there's lots of times where Apple moves like this, especially like with the overall market, the SPY, like you said, Mike, they're almost following each other in sequence right now. So it looks pretty promising, at least for the SPY in the shorter term.
You know what? Goldman's doing pretty well too.
Goldman GS, yeah, I love Goldman. They seem their trading division is so good. Their earnings were pretty decent, not as good as they were back here, but still decent earnings. And they bounced off that 350 support that they're sitting on, or that they were sitting on, I should say. But I love the move intraday. They might have a pretty decent move up to this 365 resistance or even higher, but I think 365 is pretty safe.
Sounds good. Let's see. Just looking at a couple different stocks right now. Looks like General Motors isn't doing too bad either. Airbnb's finally popping up. They've been consolidating for so long. I mean, it'd be nice to see them finally break out, but who knows? This thing's been taking forever.
It would. I would say that the intraday setup on Airbnb actually looks really good right now. It's moving up above a lot of these SMAs. It's breaking those pre-market highs around 134, and it seems like a pretty good runner, at least intraday right now. And I'm honestly going to be eyeing this one up, Mike, on the daily. It's getting really close to that like support down there. It actually bounced right off of it at like 130, almost dead even on that number actually. So it looks really, really good to me, and I'm definitely going to be eyeing it up.
All right. Then we have Vicky saying Uber is running. How's it looking, Tom?
Wow, let's see it. Uber. I was not expecting to hear that, but it almost looks like Airbnb in a way. The chart set up to me looks almost the exact same. They had a bunch of they moved way back down to these supports back from May 11th and May 12th, and then now they're just having two solid green days. I think it might be that like Uber, the airlines, Airbnb, they're just having a nice little resurgence back up after having that bad few weeks there, and I think that we might see more momentum out of all those sectors.
Good stuff. So yeah, GM, JP Morgan, Oracle. I mean, we're seeing it. We're having a decent day in the market so far. Nothing crazy, but definitely a respectable green day. Tom, do you have any last minute stocks or anything you're watching for the rest of the day?
Man, I'm still have my eye on DraftKings and Palantir. I've been really watching these two for the past few days. I like them for the longer term, and DraftKings is getting really close to that support, kind of like what we're seeing with some of these other stocks that we're talking about this morning. There's a lot of growth stocks that have been pulling back down to their supports. DraftKings is one of them. Palantir is another one. They've been really falling down lately, but I think that for the longer term, they will start to go back up eventually. And DraftKings specifically, I really love for the longer term. They have a lot of good catalysts every year that should help them gain more customers. So that's a great thing for them. And they're getting, like I said, down to that $40 support. So I'll definitely be eyeing them up, possibly selling some puts this week or something like that with DraftKings.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining today's stream. We had a great time. Thank you so much for joining, and we hope you have an amazing rest of your day.